So I didn't mean to start a bit of a firestorm, but I did last week because Tulane went on the road and beat Memphis. And when they did that, I made a post on Twitter from @LockedOn_CFB saying what a win for Tulane. They are now in my top 25 for this week. They have returned, and they're the Group of 5 playoff favorite. And this set everybody off. I mean, it was about a 2-day long run of mentions of people coming at me going, what are you talking about? Does South Florida not exist? Okay, let me spell all of this out. First of all, just because I'm saying, in my view, based on my rankings and perception of the schedule, that a team is the Group of 5 playoff favorite, does not mean either of these next two things. Number one, that the committee agrees with me, or number two, that other teams are incapable of becoming the Group of 5 playoff bid. Neither of those things are true. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday. But here's something to consider with regards to the committee. In their first playoff rankings last week, they did not rank a Group of 5 team. But what we learned is that the highest ranked Group of 5 team was Memphis. So Tulane goes to Memphis and wins. And the question for the committee when evaluating these resumes going forward, and maybe it'll all shake itself out. Maybe there will be an upset that'll prevent us from having to go into the wild tiebreakers in the American, which, by the way, directly reflect what happens in the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings. Because if there's no head-to-head between two teams, Tulane and South Florida have not played this year and do not play this year, the next tiebreaker is which team, if any, is ranked higher in the CFP committee's rankings. So if I'm correct, if I were the committee and I have South Florida in my top 25, I have Tulane in my top 25, South Florida is just on the outside looking in, they'd be in the quote-unquote receiving votes category for me, then what you would have is Tulane going to the American Championship game, and then South Florida has no shot to get in. So the reason that I have Tulane over South Florida in my top 25 is for a couple of reasons. Number one, they just beat Memphis on the road, and South Florida lost to Memphis. It was a close game, and I understand South Florida beat UTSA, who housed Tulane. And South Florida beat that. That is all good and fine. What I'm telling you is that based on how the committee has acted and ranked teams in recent years and this season, they are going to reward the quality wins more than they are going to punish bad losses. So losing by the margin in which they did on the road to UTSA is a knock against Tulane 100%. 100%. Alabama lost to a 1-win Florida State team in conference play, who didn't win their first ACC matchup until a couple of weeks ago. And based on mine and the committee's rankings, they are essentially getting a mulligan for it because they have so many quality wins. The Florida State loss is being forgiven. So I believe that's how the committee is going to view it. That's how I view it as well. So I reward Tulane. This stuff is very close. I'm not sitting here telling you it is the Grand Canyon gap between these two resumes, but I am rewarding Tulane with my rankings for their quality wins more than I am punishing them for the UTSA loss, which was indeed really bad. Now, South Florida, and this is another thing that comes into play. And again, it's all kind of on the margins. I add it up in my head and go, yeah, I'm going with Tulane here. South Florida and Tulane have something in common. They have played what I have as a top 15 team. For South Florida, that's a top 15 team in Miami. And for Tulane, that's a top 10 team in Ole Miss. They both got housed by almost the same score. 49-12, Miami beat South Florida, and 45-10, Ole Miss beat Tulane. If you want to look at those games, the way that FCS rankings treat FBS losses, which is I'll reward you if you win, but I won't punish you if you lose because you're supposed to lose, I don't really object to that. So if you want to just you can throw one out, you can throw both out, or you can throw neither out and assess them for what they are, which is Ole Miss is a better loss than Miami. But if you want to throw both of them out, that is perfectly fine. So let's just say that we're going to go down that particular avenue, which is more what I lean towards. That you play a team that has got a lot more money and a much better roster than you get blown out, things can snowball. Okay. So that happened to both of them. So we throw that out. South Florida's remaining resume of quality wins is Boise State, Florida, and North Texas. With a loss to Memphis. There's not a bad loss, but those are the 4 games that count. To me, that is not as impressive of a lineup of wins as Tulane having beaten Northwestern by 20, beating Duke, who I know lost this past week. Their loss, I guess Kentucky's a better loss, but Duke at least was competitive against UConn in a game that I expected to be close, and Duke just wasn't able to pull it out. But Duke still has a path, mind you, to go to the ACC championship game. That's incredibly realistic. Florida does not, and Florida got housed by Kentucky over the weekend, 38-7. So if you want to throw the Duke loss thing in there, okay, that's fine. But then you have to knock the Florida win down a lot for South Florida because Florida was never actually a good team. They were in the AP Top 25, and I can show you the tweet. When that AP Top 25 came out, I said, who are the most overrated teams, and why is it Michigan and Florida? And Michigan was overrated. I didn't have a problem with them being in the top 25. But Florida's a team I've been down on from the year. I never thought they were good. They are not good because they had a head coach who had no business being the head coach at the University of Florida. The North Texas win is good, but the Memphis win, to me, carries more weight between these two resumes because Memphis has the head-to-head win over South Florida. Now, is this close? Yes. These are 2 of the top group of 5 teams. The AP poll, inexplicably, has James Madison in the top 25. I'm not on board with that whatsoever. I am not at all. And I think James Madison could find a way to get in the playoff. I wouldn't put him outside the top 5, but here are their wins. Okay, this doesn't match up to Tulane, and it does not match up to South Florida either. Weber State, Liberty, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Louisiana, Old Dominion, Texas State, and Marshall. Have they looked impressive in these games? For the most part, yes. They lost to Louisville 28-14 on the road. It's not a horrible loss. It's not a terrible outcome. But to have James Madison ranked over South Florida and Tulane and reward them for having a better record with an easier schedule when South Florida and Tulane have legitimate quality wins over Power 4 or Power 4 caliber competition, I'm not on board with that whatsoever. So I think Tulane, if they win out and the tiebreakers go, we'll see what the committee does because that'll affect the tiebreakers because the G5 team has to be the conference champion, of course. Tulane has Florida Atlantic at home this week. They go at Temple and then play Charlotte. And then potentially someone in the American Championship game. South Florida, conversely, goes at Navy this week that just got their doors blown out by Notre Dame last week, whatever that expression means. They go at UAB that pulled an upset of Memphis earlier this year with an interim head coach, and then they play Rice, who's just okay. Not great, not terrible. They're just okay. What I would love to settle this is for these 2 teams to wind up playing in the American Championship game. Because that's how you would, I think, truly settle it. And after San Diego State got obliterated by Hawaii, 38-6 was the final score. After that happened, in my mind, even though they've got the win over Cal, I don't think San Diego State's resume can climb over one of these 2. But hey, this is college football. Anything could happen. That South Florida Navy game this week is massive because if the Bulls lose, then this conversation becomes moot. That's why I'm having it on my Monday show. But the top teams in the American right now who have one loss that can still go on to the American Championship game, those teams are Navy, South Florida, Tulane, and North Texas. I'm not going to overlook North Texas. I think they're in the fold, but North Texas does not have a win. Like, their best win is Washington State. South Florida beat them by 27. They beat Navy as well. That's a pretty good win. But I don't think that North Texas's resume is as good as South Florida or Tulane's. I think Tulane is first. I think South Florida is second. And then we can have a debate about who's third and beyond. But that started a firestorm over the weekend. And so I wanted to come on here and explain. And also, far be it from me to forget to inform you, the college football public, that a group of 5 team will indeed be in the playoff. That is my thinking. If you don't agree with it, you know what? We'll just see what the committee thinks come Tuesday. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.